Dune is an adventure novel to me. It is called sci-fi, but I would rather think of it as speculative fiction, an adventure epic. And therefore, I didn't want to locate the novel or our story in any one particular space and time. And I felt that if we went to specific locations around the world and tried to use those as the backdrop for Dune, that we would be putting the story into environments that we all might recognize, or that would seem familiar in a way that would take away from the story the speculative nature of it. So we decided at one point to investigate the possibility of creating a completely fantasy-oriented world, totally on stage. But I was adamant that we did not do it as a green screen show. And by that I mean I didn't want to create an environment that basically had one or two props and the rest of the room was green and the actors were acting against something we would create much later in CG. Because I didn't feel, first of all, that we could accurately portray the world that I wanted. I didn't think that the actors could act in the world as well. I was lucky enough to get two wonderful artists to help me realize this vision. And the first was Miljen Kreka Kljakovic and his wonderful vision of what the world of Dune would look like. The other was Vittorio Storaro, who came to me and suggested a technique that he had perfected over many other films called translights, where we could actually enlarge the environments that we were dealing with by creating huge tapestries of backgrounds that we would create on the computer and then photograph and build into the sets that Kreka was designing. And the result is the world of Dune that we've created. A completely unique vision of Dune that's not located in any time or in any space that's recognizable or familiar. When Kreka and I started talking about Dune, we decided that we really needed different, unique visions for each of the locales of Dune. There's the Imperial planet, there's the planet where the Baron lives, there is the planet where the Atreides come, which is Dune. And on Dune, there is the Fremen communities, which we are exploring in great detail in this movie. And in order for us to understand the difference culturally from one to the other, we had to do that with visual cues. And so Kreka has come up with architectural design which basically in a glance tells you the difference between the Harkonnen and the Atreides, between the palace of the Imperial Emperor Shaddam and the Fremen communities in the deep desert. And I was determined when we did Dune to enrich the story by the cultural life of these different communities. And the first way of doing that was with the architecture. So we have a very stylized look to this movie, which gives you an immediate sense of where you are. The planet Kaitain, where the Emperor lives, which is very Art Nouveau, very elegant, lots of golds and lots of purples. The planet Harkonnen, where the planet Gedi Prime, where the Harkonnen live. Reds, raked angles, very severe cutting kinds of joins of pieces of architecture, giving you a very uncomfortable look. And then Vittorio has created a lot of raked angles within that to give you even more sense of unease. And then you come to the palace in Arrakeen, which is this elegant desert Moroccan palace in the middle of nowhere, which has stood for centuries and centuries, and you can almost feel the fact that this is an ancient place. And then you get out into the Fremen communities where the Sietches are, and you see how they cook and how they live. It's not just that they've dug holes in the walls and live in caves. They've actually created enormous bas-relief on the walls, not unlike in the deserts of Jordan. And I think that all of those different environments will be, first of all, instantly recognizable, but also will give you, as I say, at one look, a sense of who these people are and what their history is. The reason I wanted to work with Vittorio was because I've always loved the application of light and color that he uses in all of his films as story elements. It's not just about creating a nice composition, although he's a master of that. And it's not always about how you just move the camera in order to be at the right place at the right time for the story element. It's how you encourage the emotion of the scene by the way you light it and the way you color it. And Vittorio has made it his career to understand the psychology of color and light. And there's no better project for that than Dune.